Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kelly, and for today's video we're going to be talking about the 8 books that I read in the month of July. Now, I will say this is the fewest amount of books that I think I have read thus far. I've usually been doing good with reading like 10 books a month, but I only read 8. Now, I will say, I told you guys that I haven't had a 5-star read since April, which was Funny Story by Emily Henry. And yeah, your girl has been in a 5-star drought, but I didn't only have 1 5-star read. I didn't only have 2 5-star reads, but I had 3 5-star reads in the month of July. So even though I didn't read as many books as I wanted to, I got some 5-star reads, which is what I was looking for all along. So technically, it's a win-win. If you see me looking behind the camera, I have my iPad behind me with like all the ratings that I gave all these books, just because I tend to forget what I've rated some of these books. So I'm just keeping that there so I can look at it. I am going to put some stats on the screen, like showing you guys like what genres I've read this month, but mostly it's been romance. And I also read 2 fantasies, which is kind of shocking because I told you guys I haven't really been in like a fantasy mood because it's summertime and I'm just loving the romance era right now. But without further ado, let's get into the 8 books that I read in July. Alright, so the first book that I read in July was Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've never read anything from him before, and one of my goals from this year was to read new to me authors and like branch out of my comfort zone, and he was definitely one of the authors on that list. And I heard such amazing things about this trilogy, and I was kind of scared also because a lot of the things that I saw were people like bawling their eyes out over this series, so I was very scared. But this book did not disappoint. I ended up giving it a 4.5 stars. So you are following this town. It's called Beartown, and in this town these people are all really obsessed with hockey, and the hockey team ends up going into the semifinals. So you're following that plotline as well, and then there's another plotline that takes place, I can't say what it is because it's a spoiler, but it ends up like rattling the town, and it definitely gave this book more of an emotional feel. And I think his writing style is so unique. I've never read an author where like you'll be reading a paragraph and then in the next paragraph you'll be following a different person's point of view, and just his writing style was so unique, and I really enjoyed that about this book. And I also listened to it on audiobook, which I feel like that gave it an even better experience. I didn't give it a 5 star just because it didn't give me that 5-star feeling. But I do see myself giving the other books in the series a 5-star because the found family in this book was just chef's kiss, and I really feel like I'm going to fall for some of these characters. I do think that Benji is going to be my favorite out of all the characters. I just loved him so much, and I feel like I'm gonna grow to love him even more in the other 2 books in this trilogy. But yeah, I had a really great time. Also, check your trigger warnings for this book as well, because it does deal with some more darker topics as well. So I'm really excited to read the other 2 books, but also really nervous because I've heard that the next 2 books are even more emotional than this book. So a little scared for that, but overall I really loved this book. And there were some amazing quotes in this book as well. Like, most of the tabs that I have in here are quotes. I really do love his quotes as well. So I definitely recommend this book. All right. The next book that I read was Liza My Monster by Rena Kent. This is the second book in the Monster trilogy. And I did skip around in Rena Kent's reading order just because I wanted to get to these books, because I've heard that this trilogy is Rena Kent's best work, and as of right now I do agree. I gave this book 5 stars. I also feel like I had an emotional connection to these characters from reading the first book, and these characters just felt so real to me, and I believed in their love, and I feel like that's why I gave it 5 stars. And also, this trilogy made my love for dark romance re-spark again, so I'm really excited to read more from Rena Kent, and I am going to go back into her reading order. I just wanted to read this trilogy first. But yeah, I love Sasha. I love Krill. He's definitely one of my all-time favorite book boyfriends. Just the way that he had such a soft spot for Sasha, I just loved. So 5 stars. So glad to finally have a 5-star in my life. Next, I read Dishonestly Yours by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Now, I will say I was very nervous going into this book because I only read one series from them so far, which was the Addicted Calloway Sister series. And if you guys have watched any other videos from me, you will know that that is like my favorite series ever. So I was a little bit nervous because I feel like I had high expectations going into this already because obviously they wrote one of my favorite series ever. I gave this book 3.5 stars. Now, I will say, when I first read the first book in the Addicted series, which was Addicted to You, I would say like maybe like 100 pages in, I consider DNFing. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this before, but I just found myself a little bit bored, but I kept going, and then I kept reading the other books in the series, and then I think around the second book or the third book was when I realized that I love the series so much. So I do feel like once more books come out in this series and I connect with the characters more, because I can definitely see these books having found family like the Addicted Calloway Sisters series did. But this book just fell a little bit flat for me. I found myself being a little bit bored, but you are following Phoebe and Rocky. It is dual POV, and their families are con artists, and Phoebe and Rocky's sister, I kind of forget her name. Haley. Phoebe and Haley, which Haley is Rocky's sister, they end up moving to a new state to get away from, because they want to start fresh. They don't want to be in the con artist world anymore, so they end up moving to a different state and wanting to start fresh, and Rocky ends up going with them to try to convince them to come back, and it goes from there. I don't know, I just wasn't really digging the romance. I feel like the plot of the book is what made me give this book 3.5 stars. If it had a different plot, I feel like I wouldn't have given this book that high of a rating, because I just didn't feel the connection with the two characters yet. Who knows, I could once I continue. I think they released the second book. I'm not sure when that comes out, but I could end up changing my mind once I continue with the series. I will definitely be continuing, but this one just wasn't my favorite. It just felt a little bit flat for me. Other than that, look how beautiful this cover is. This cover is stunning. Just saying. But yeah, I gave it a 3.5. It's not a bad rating. I think my hopes were a little bit too high. Next, I read Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. This book actually went viral on TikTok. I think I was just scrolling one day and I didn't really know what I wanted to read next after Dishonestly Yours. My brain was just like all over the place, and I ended up seeing people just keep talking about this book, and I was like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna start it. So I started it on Kindle, and then I think maybe 50 or 60 pages in, I said, you know what, I already know I'm going to love this book, and I bought a physical copy on Amazon. I will say this cover is ugly, and it's funny because right after I got this delivered, I saw people talking about an alternate cover. I'm going to put it on the screen, but this alternate cover is so beautiful, and I'm really mad at myself that I didn't see that before I bought this one, because this cover is just giving me like Snapchat filter vibes. Am I the only one who gets that from this cover? But this is a fantasy romance. You are following Saris. I think that's how you say her name. Saris. There's like a bunch of like character pronunciation guides. Yeah, Saris. And she ends up stealing from the queen, and people are out looking for what she stole. And then she ends up running into this guy named Kingfisher, which is the love interest, obviously. And the banter between Saris and Kingfisher had me kicking my feet, giggling. I loved the banter, and like the back and forth that they had was just everything to me. And I also see the found family forming in this series, and the second book comes out in October. So I'm really excited to continue. I gave this book 4.75 stars. I didn't give it a 5-star just because I did feel like it started to drag, like the ending dragged out a little bit. But there was so much action, and the ending, the cliffhanger that was this ending, I still cannot stop thinking about it. It was very rude, and I need the next book now. But yeah, that's why I didn't give it a 5-star. I just feel like it could have been a little bit shorter, but that's just me. But I had the best time reading this book, and this book made me want to read more fantasy romance books. So this definitely sparked up my mood to read more fantasy, because I was in a little bit of like a fantasy rut. Loved that book. And then I finished up the Monster trilogy with Heart of My Monster by Rena Kent. I gave this book 5 stars. I think the trilogy overall is a 5-star. I gave the second and the third book 5 stars, and then the first book I gave 4 stars. But overall, it is a 5-star series for me. The characters, the plot just had me intrigued the whole entire time, and just their back and forths together, I loved it so much. I can't really say too much for these because they are the second and third book in a series. How many times have I said that word in this video? If you can count and let me know in the comments how many times I said that word, I apologize. But I can't say too much. I definitely do recommend the Monster trilogy. Also, check up your trigger warnings before reading these books because these are dark romances. And make sure that you are old enough to be reading these because they deal with heavy topics. So, love Sasha and Krill so much, and I'm really sad that this trilogy came to an end. And it's funny because I had 2 5-star reads in a row. The next book that I read was one of my most anticipated reads of this year, The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. I read You with the View by her in the beginning of the year, and I gave that book 5 stars. I loved it so much. And so going into this book, I already knew that I loved her writing. So you are following Georgia and Eli, and they used to date, and their best friends end up getting married, and a bunch of things go wrong, and Georgia is like his best friend. So he calls her and like telling her that like there's problems with the wedding and that he needs both of them to come down and try and fix their wedding for them because she's the maid of honor and then he is the best man, I'm pretty sure. I think they're all like best friends. So they come down and spend a lot of time together to try and fix his wedding. Normally, I'm not a fan of second chance romances. They have to be done right in order for me to love them. Before, my favorite second chance romance was Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. I love that book so much. And this book is definitely my new favorite second chance romance. The tension from them, and I cried. The last maybe like 80-90 pages, I was bawling my eyes out, you guys. I love them so much. Eli, the man that he is, chef's kiss. Just something about Jessica Joyce, she knows how to write men so well. I loved Eli, I loved Georgia, I loved the story. Also, this cover is so stunning. And also, look at the tabs. I have to go back in and like highlight and stuff. I just was tabbing this month. I didn't really like highlight or like underline anything. I was just sticking tabs where I wanted to stick them. But definitely my new favorite second chance romance, and I think this is my favorite read of the year so far. I just had the best time reading it and I love them so much. So I definitely recommend this book. If there is any book from this video that I recommend you read the most, it is The X-Vows by Jessica Joyce. Next, I told you guys I've been reading Heartstopper slowly but surely. I've been savoring these books because they're so quick and easy, so I've been telling myself to read one a month. And I read the 3rd volume. I don't know how to rate these, you guys, so I gave it a 4 stars. But yeah, I haven't read enough graphic novels to be able to like give a genuine rating. I just gave 5 stars or 5 stars. I just gave 4 stars because I can. I don't know, guys, but I love Nick and Charlie so much. They are so pure and it's just such a cute and easy read. Definitely a really good palette cleanser. Like if you're in between like a heavy fantasy series or like a heavy series in general, you can pick this up. They're just so easy to flip through and the pictures are so cute. And Charlie and Nick's love is just so pure and genuine, and you can definitely feel it when you're reading this. And I just love getting to see the visuals. So good. So good. I cannot wait to pick up the 4th one this month. So definitely recommend these. Even if you don't like graphic novels, I definitely recommend that you check these out because they're just so cute. That's like the one word that I can use to describe these books, is cute. And the cover, adorable. And then the last book that I read in July was a anticipated read for sure, Reckless by Lauren Roberts. Now, I had very high expectations as well going into this one because I loved Powerless so much, which this is the 2nd book in the, is it just called the Powerless trilogy? I think it is. But I was really looking forward to this book. I ended up giving this book a 3.5. Now I will say a 3.5 is not a bad rating whatsoever, but I feel like I was expecting this book to be a 5-star. So my reasoning for not giving it a 5-star rating or a higher rating than I did is because this book felt so repetitive. Like I felt like these characters were having the same conversation over and over and over and over again. And it really annoyed me at one point. I'm like, okay. I was considering DNFing this because it was just getting to the point where I'm like, I'm reading the same scene like over and over and over and over again. I will say, if you connect to Peyton and Kai in like the first book and you just want more of like their back and forth banter, you probably will love this. I was just expecting more of a plot and there was no plot whatsoever, guys. It was just back and forth between the two characters, and I don't know, I was just expecting way more. And people have said that this book is called, like, I forget the word that they used, like a book in between, like if they need something to just be chill before like the next book comes out, which is gonna be like a crazy book. There's a word for it, I just cannot think of it right now. But regardless, it should have still had a plot, and it just didn't, and it just fell flat for me. I do love these characters so much, and getting to see their banter was nice, but I just felt like they were having just the same conversations over and over again, and nothing was getting fixed, and they weren't moving forward at all, if that makes sense. So, I don't know, I was just really let down. I am going to be reading the last book in the trilogy when it comes out next year. I was just expecting more from this. I still do love Peyton and Kai so much, but yeah, 3.5. Still a good read. I still had a good time. Like, her writing is just so easy to get through. I feel like I binged this in like 2 days, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. So 3.5. But yeah, those are all of the, also ignore the background. Like this, I need to get rid of all this. Just a mess back there. I apologize. But those are all of the 8 books that I read. I'm trying to grab them all. Here are all the 8 books that I read in the month of July. It was not my best reading month quantity-wise, but a really great month quality-wise, because I had 3 5-star reads and I didn't have a 5-star read for a couple months. So overall, a pretty great reading month if I do say so myself. But yeah, you guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, if you give it a huge thumbs up, leave me a comment down below letting me know your favorite book of the month of July. I also feel like I say this in every single video, but I feel like I get all over the place with talking about different books because I get scared that I'm going to spoil something. So if you're listening to me talk about one of these books and you're like, Kelly, you're not making sense, I apologize. I'm trying my best. I'm not the best at speaking, so I'm trying here, guys. But I love you all, and I will see you guys really soon in my next video. Bye, guys.